You're listening to Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles. I'm Frank because I have to be. On today's show, we have a gentleman by the name of Emeka. Most people know him by his seduction persona, Peachez. He is one of the pickup judges on the TV show Keys to the VIP. Keys to the VIP is a reality TV show, a game show, where different players will go and test their skills and be judged by 4 pickup experts. And on today's show, we have one of those pickup experts. Welcome to Frank Talks, Emeka.
Frank, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to people who are not fans, people who are fans, and in sharing some of my perspectives on this quickly growing genre and subculture. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. Let's start with our first question. Where were you born? And tell me of some different elements in your life growing up that eventually led you to becoming a specialist in the world of pickup that got you onto the judges panel on Keys to the VIP.
Well, I wish I had a cool, funky city, like New York, Soweto, South Africa or something. I was born right here in Canada, a place called Windsor, bordering Detroit. Mm-hmm. And that's where my origins are from. I'm a Canadian, proud Canadian. Joined a Hall of Fame of Canadians that are now currently fully embroiled in the seduction community. But my upbringing, the most, I think, prolific thing in my upbringing and assisting me in retrospect with my skill that I have in human communication is probably something that's detrimental to me. When I was born, at a very young age, I suffered from meningitis, which caused me to lose some of my hearing in my right ear.
Meningitis?
Meningitis, yeah. I contracted meningitis in my infant years, and it was a good thing that at the time my father was very attentive, because as a child, every time I was moved, apparently my body stiffened up, and it was obvious that I was experiencing some pain in my neck. And this is a story that my mother told me over and over again growing up. So they took me to the hospital, and then and my father sent to a doctor, an attentive doctor as well, that there seems to be something wrong. He's not colicky, he's not crying all the time. The only time he seems to experience any pain is when we move him. So they realized that there was the meningitis, virus had begun to attack my spine and cause some hearing loss. So they realized the situation, how dire it was, and they rushed me into treatment, and all was saved. But I was still left with some partial hearing loss in my right ear, which caused me to wear a hearing aid in my early developmental days. Now, being already a minority, and on top of that, one that needed a hearing device, there's certain obstacles that come with that. Mm-hmm. Certain obstacles that need to be overcome. And you become very, very, very aware of your surroundings and those people around you. Issues of being accepted, am I being judged, am I being treated differently, so on and so forth. And of course, all these aspects and variables existed. You can either choose to be broken by it, or you could choose to strive. My father was a very, very strong man, and my mother had a background in social work. Both university-educated people, very logical, and great role models. So I guess I decided, unconsciously or subconsciously, to survive and not become a victim of circumstances. There's many ways it could have went. I could have spiraled out of control and become depressed or cynical or moody. But, you know, I went forth, I made friends, I was still outgoing. But one of the things I did have was an acute ability to read people in social situations. And I don't know if that was because I was hard of hearing in the right ear, and I was more intent on reading lips. But I don't think I was that deaf. I'm currently speaking to you without a hearing aid. I function through my regular life without a hearing aid. But I think at the time, the doctors of auditory studies believed that in my developmental years I needed one. But still, one of the things is you compensate if you're missing something. If you're blind, your ears work better. If you're deaf, your eyes work better. So I became a very visually oriented person, and I became great at reading human expression and predicting human expression to give myself the edge. So with the early years going through life, I was highly aware of how people reacted to me, and whether I liked it or not, I was highly aware. So I think based on the experiences in my younger years, looking back retrospectively, and how I have become successful in human interaction, I would like to think the obstacle that I once had in turn or became a strength. And I think that's what most people should do in life. I think learn and grow from obstacles, find power from overcoming obstacles, find drive and inspiration from obstacles. You know, the fact that, you know, problems often create opportunities to find solutions. So it's a little bit of how my childhood may have shaped who I am today.
I got to ask you something here. This is for all the people listening who, let's say, they also had, you know, for lack of a better term, they also had a disability, a handicap, a stigma.
Yeah.
And they allowed themselves to let that turn them off of being social, just so that they can relate to you better.
Mm-hmm.
Are you willing to share some of the bad experiences that might have happened to you as a kid that could have, you know, made you shy away from social situations?
Oh, absolutely. You always have the one kid in the class, or the one or two kids in the class. I can't recall his name specifically, but I remember his face. And, you know, it's funny. You always remember the faces of those who bring you.
Your tormentors.
Your tormentors or your abusers. And he had a habit of running up to me and screaming in the ear that housed the hearing aid was in. And his whole focus was this device on my ear. And it caused having someone do that to you, and having someone force a negative spotlight, and, you know, some of the name calling. I can't remember the name calling specifically, but some of the name calling that came with it. It does cause anxiety, and in many instances, social scars.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing I can credit my parents for doing is they always forced inclusion. I was always a part of teams. I was really big into soccer growing up, and it was an opportunity for me to, you know, show off my other abilities. Instead of focusing on the disability, I focused on my ability to run with the ball. And I was quite a decorated soccer player when I was young, playing for provincial teams and so on and so forth, winning more medals and accolades, and gaining acceptance through those activities. And for those people out there who have disabilities, Because you can't do one thing doesn't mean you can't do the other. And I challenge those individuals out there who look in the mirror or look within themselves and have a problem overcoming their disability to, instead of focusing on problems, find solutions. Find things that you are able to do and do them very well. And from that, you will find power. And I think the whole power idea ties into the inner game concepts that are being discussed, thankfully, more now within the subculture of dating, the concept of inner game.
Mm-hmm.
And inner game comes from power, passion, drive, focus, the ability to take all your energy, put it into something, and receive something positive out of it. A feeling of pride, knowing whether it be you're able to throw for a touchdown in the winning championship game in your Pop Warner football, or you have a piece of art that's submitted in your local gallery. There's so many different ways to engage in activities and draw from it inspiration and power from that passion. Doing things that are meaningful and drawing the positive energy of having done something meaningful despite your disabilities is immense and very, very, very helpful in constructing a persona that would be conducive for effective pair bonding later on. If you don't have a passion for life, if you don't have that power, you will not have, jumping ahead to what it is that we'll be discussing and more, you will not be able to establish attraction with anybody. That's the key, the power to overcome.
One of the things that you said really resonated with me, and that is to take that, disability that you may have,
yeah,
and basically you turned what disability you had and you found a positive in it, which is your other senses became stronger, and you went with that.
Absolutely.
And, to relate a little bit of my own story, I've always been a heavy guy. My weight was the biggest reason that I could have used to not learn to get my love life handled. And I credit the fact that I'm overweight with the fact that if I wasn't overweight, I never would have had such a keen understanding of relationships now that I do. Because I needed to understand relationships better than the average guy because of that stigma against me.
Yeah,
so
it's a beautiful revelation, because it's like the rich kid. He's never been forced to look within himself or dig deep or ask tough questions and therefore find answers. The situation or the journey or the path you've taken has caused you and forced you to ask tough questions and get answers. And you're probably better off that you had to ask those tough questions and find the answers, as opposed to someone who's never posed the question to himself. The self-discovery that you engaged in allowed you to become more holistically spiritually, in the sense that you're more complete as a human being, because you have a better understanding of what it is to be a human being, because you've had to ask those questions. It's very philosophical, what took place. But your awareness is now heightened. Your awareness of yourself, your awareness of others, your awareness of your environment, and how you're integrated into that environment. It's now stronger than someone who's never had to ask the questions or never had to be aware. You now have an advantage because of the struggle. People get stronger out of struggle. It either makes you or breaks you. And what I'm trying to convince those guys out there is to, those who are trying to overcome certain barriers or obstacles, is to keep pushing forward. stay powerful. And it's like training. You train yourself to go forward, work harder, and the benefits are positive. You've trained your mind. It's a muscle. It gets stronger. It gets more powerful. And if you keep pushing forward, you're going to reap the benefits. To stop and to give up, it's regressive. You shrink. You shrivel up and you die. And nothing good can come out of that. To push forward is to be progressive and positive. And because you're progressive and you're positive, and that energy keeps growing because you're progressive and positive, good things keep happening, which feeds in to this machine that's now moving and operating in the right direction. So for a lot of those guys out there, I know it could be hard because, I can't do this, I can't get over that. It's amazing. Everybody talked about The Secret and the power of positive thinking. And it's not a cliche. It's very true. Positivity attracts positivity or positive results. Negative repels. So stay positive, stay powerful, and attract. Put yourself in a situation where you can attract positive results and positive outcomes through positive thinking. And it's very philosophical, and it even sounds cliche at times, but I can't stress how true it is. It's unbelievable. How just changing your frame of mind. It's amazing. I was walking down Queen Street, Toronto the other day, and I ran into a homeless guy, and of course he had the same old shtick, I need some change or whatever. And I guess I was in my own world. I brushed him aside, and I kept on moving. And then as I walked by, he said something to me. He goes, you know what? You seem like a nice guy. I got you on the wrong day. And I stopped. He stopped me right in my tracks. And instead of, grumbling and, calling me an asshole or a yuppie prick or whatever, he spun it positively.
Mm-hmm.
And because he spun it positively, he caused me to stop. Maybe even a little bit of neuro-linguistic programming he employed on me. But he spun it positively. He made me stop on my tracks. And I said, you know what, buddy? Because you reacted positively, and you, in a way, with that positive inflection, became a bigger man than me. Because I felt, here's a guy who's begging me for money, mm-hmm. but yet he found a way to turn. It just resonated with me, and it triggered almost feelings of guilt. Here's a guy who has every reason to be negative, and yet he's still finding a way to be positive. And I'm trapped in my own mind and dealing with my own problems, and it made me feel almost ridiculous and immature. So, I went turned around, I broke him off some bread. I said, you know what, you keep up the good work, man, because your mind frame right now is going to lead you. It's going to lead you into the right direction because it caused me to stop. You affected me, and you made me ask questions about myself with your positive attitude. And that's a classic example of how, or the most recent example for me, it's classic in a way of how positive thinking or a positive approach to life can render positive results.
I really hope that at some point you put out a book and a CD set, because I'm really enjoying this. I mean, we need more of this. Like, I sincerely hope that you change whatever it is, whatever career path you want. I want to hear more of you, man. I'd pay for this. And speaking
Greg, I appreciate it. Thank you. I appreciate it. I've been trapped in the matrix, so to speak. Mm-hmm. It's after watching what happened with Keith to the VIP was fascinating because I gotta admit, I hope I'm not bumping you off your line of questioning, but Keys to the VIP was a rewarding experience and also a very frustrating experience because heading into Keys, I had a certain idea of how I wanted the show to look, but unfortunately, TV is a very, very, very dark and murky land.
We're going to go to commercial, and when we come back, we'll be talking with Emeka, and I want to hear all about your experiences in Keys to the VIP.
No problem.
You're listening to Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles. We'll be back right after this.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. What would your life be like if you knew exactly what to say and do with women? Learn how to handle women's tests by addressing her emotional needs. By this, you create the type of attraction that will make her see you as the one. This book is a guide for men to understand exactly what a woman means when she speaks. Is that worth changing your life forever? Buy this book at FrankTalks.com now.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by Multiple Women Management, the 10 secret rules of a harem master. What are the written rules of multiple women management? How are the emotional needs of women addressed in a lifestyle that supports dating multiple women at the same time? Can love actually exist when dating many women at once? How does a man handle it when his lovers meet each other? What are the real risks of dating multiple women at the same time? Why does a man that wants multiple long-term partners need to be wary of the law? What is the Desperate Measures Act that even the most notorious player could use to get a woman to believe that he is ready for a serious long-term relationship? This program has those answers and more, including a brief overview of the difference between monogamy, polyamory, swinging, multiple women management, the 10 secret rules of a harem master. On sale now at FrankTalks.com.
From Loser to Seducer is the story of Frank B. Kermit. This book marks the triumph of a nice guy over most of his inner demons. This includes going from being a loser to managing 5 lovers at the same time, his first Valentine's date with 2 women at the same time, and getting back the one that got away. Want to learn how you can change your life? Buy this book at FrankTalks.com.
You're listening to Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles. I'm Frank because I have to be. On today's show, we have Emeka, and he's better known to his fans as Peachez, one of the hosts and judges of the TV show Keys to the VIP. Welcome back, Emeka.
Thanks for having me back.
All right, so let's take this interview slightly different direction. My question is, in the last part we talked about becoming a keen observer of human behavior. You didn't have your hearing, other senses compensated, and it developed into a skill base for you to be able to notice, observe, and become a predictor of human behavior. Yeah. How did that lead to you becoming a better pickup artist, and how did that land you a job on the TV show Keys to the VIP?
Well, it's a story that is you probably see played out in a lot of American pop culture. I relied heavily on the athletics. Schooling for me wasn't exactly. I wasn't the brightest student. I was good. I ended up getting really good because I applied myself, and I ended up going to the University of Toronto, which in my estimation is a highly regarded post-secondary institution of education. But at the time, I was more focused on the social aspects of my life and the inclusionary aspects of my life where I was accepted. And for me, it was sports. And I think the power of joining clubs or sports clubs or having passions is huge in shaping a personality and a profile that is desirable later on in life. Getting up and getting out there, it could be archery, it could be chess. Whatever you do, be great at it, and be great at something that you do. But the key is do something. Be active in life. Get out there and I don't care if it's stamp collecting. Do it and be good at it. Be great. Be a perfectionist. So, I basically ran the gamut in terms of sports, and then I got turned on to football, and which I also excelled at greatly. Rep teams championships, high school championships, college football, scholarship offers, partial scholarship offers at the time, which didn't really pan out because being offered a partial scholarship to an American university is you're still left with quite a heavy expense. But it turns out during my high school years, I decided to become more dedicated to schooling and putting more effort into my studies. And I amassed grades that were good enough to get me into a decent university. Meanwhile, I found that being a part of those social teams or those clubs and those teams, my skill set had strengthened because I had become a sociable person and I become confident. And the key with confidence, I cannot preach enough how key confidence is in this game, the game of pair bonding and in the game of life. It is probably the most important aspect of any guy's personality that will assist him in development. If you are not confident, if you are a slave to being self-conscious, I'll jump on here and say this. Woman, let's talk about women for a second. Women are boundless creatures that are beautiful both inside and out. However, they can be extremely effective in destroying you if you're not prepared. And they will go through you like a hot knife through butter if they see the slightest hint of lack of confidence or low self-esteem. It is amazing. 75, 80, 85% of the time that men run into problems with women, it's because of their confidence, and then as a result of their lack of confidence, their lack of control. So my involvement with my various
athletics,
it helped me develop the confidence that I needed to become more fluent in my social interactions. Learning how to be cool with whatever happens and not always expect things. I became more lighthearted. I became less cynical. I became more positive.
So basically, what made you a better athlete were the same traits that you carried over into your relationships.
Yes. It's the basis. Confidence is the basis for everything. I became more confident in my athletics, and then I became more confident in my life. And as I became more confident in my life, I actually became more confident in my athletics. It's self-sustaining. It feeds itself. And the other one is control. Confidence and control. If you don't have these two things, you will crumble as a human being on this planet.
I can understand. I got a question for you here, because I can understand the idea of you do something, you get good at it, you develop confidence, and you take that confidence into other areas.
Yes.
But when it comes to the idea of having control, there are some things that you can control, your own behaviors, how you react to things. But there's some things you might not be able to control, like how other people treat you and decisions or actions other people take that are beyond your control. So can you explain to me what you mean when you say you have to have control?
Yes, you're absolutely right. And what control means, you basically answered the query in the first part of your statement there. Control means self-control. And this entails controlling your emotions and your ego.
So just now, to be, sorry, don't mean to cut you off, but I know there's going to be some guy listening to this who hears, oh, wait a minute, I got to control the girl? Okay, I'll tell her exactly what to do and what she's forbidden to do, and I'll keep her as a slave in a cage, and I'll have control over her. I don't get from you that you're talking about that.
You know, the funny thing about it is, I think Giuliani said it the best. When the shit hits the fan, be the coolest guy in the room, and everyone will automatically defer to your calm because you're the one that's most in control. And what that means, what control does, it emanates a power. It emanates this feeling of self-assuredness that many people can feel intimidated by. So when I say control, and I mean control your emotions, is don't be overly reactive to people when they challenge you or they question you or when they make fun of you or they try to affect and get you to lose control. It's I know it sounds very Jeet Kune Do and Bruce Lee-like, but those who are successful are those who maintain control of themselves and their emotions. If guys out there can understand, another guy, it just reminds me of P. Diddy, a popular artist. He said once that emotions will leave you broke every time. And because when you're out of control and you're emotional and you're not, emotional is the opposite of rational, and it causes you to make decisions that are irrational or do things that are irrational and that lower your value. But if you're in control, you're rational. If you're irrational, you're making the right decisions. If you're making the right decisions, you're most likely to be successful, or you're in a frame of mind that's going to lead to success. That's why it's very, very, very important that confidence and control are the baseline for all our listeners out there. If you have those two key components in your persona and as a part of your inner game, it's amazing. The opportunities and successes are boundless because everybody's going to wonder, who is this guy? Who is this guy? And that's the question that you want to have people ask when you leave the room. Who was that guy? He was so confident. He was in such control. He was very measured. It's a perfect example, a visual example for people to reference is James Bond. The whole idea of James Bond is based around those two components. Confidence and control. Never gets flustered in even the most dire situations, which makes him immensely attractive to the opposite sex. So, sorry, we went off on a little caveat there, but coming back to me and how I progressed into keys to the VIP, as I grew older, and my confidence and my control, and the control of my own mind frame, it was almost like I had that Neo experience where I saw the Matrix. And, you kind of just have this epiphany where you realize this is what's going on, and this is what people do, and this is how people struggle to gain social power by clamoring and stepping on others to elevate themselves. But if you don't get affected by those who are clamoring for that social power, you are no longer a foothold for them. you now become someone they desire to be.
Mm-hmm.
Because they themselves want to have that same confidence and control that you consistently embody, and that same confidence and control you consistently emanate. So through my university days and understanding this and being the confident and in control guy that I was, I pretty much had zero approach anxiety. I began to live a life that was carefree, lighthearted, and anxiety-free. And I really came into stride during my university days. And this is when I met two of the fellows that were with me on Keys to the VIP, Sheldon and Alan. Me and Sheldon had played football. Rep football throughout high school and played high school football together.
Mm-hmm.
And then he went off to Guelph University and I went off to University of Toronto. But I always preferred the party scene up at Guelph. So I would go up and visit him up there. So, Toronto's a terrible city for the expensive alcohol. You go to any of the smaller towns, they practically give liquor away. So it was always a better experience. And I would go up there, party with him in the crash, and we'd have a great time. And Alan, at the time, had become Sheldon's roommate. And Alan was an introverted, book smart guy who basically embodied the idea, money talks, bullshit walks. And he would always, want to come out and party with us. And we would go to the local bars in Guelph. And essentially, because it was, I was with the football guys, it would almost be, a Cro-Magnon alpha male type of, square off against each other. Look, I'm going to outdo you by doing this, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to say this. Going out and picking up girls wasn't enough. Mm-hmm. You had to do it with flair. So we would challenge each other. We would handicap each other. You've got to do this. You've got to get this girl while she's with that guy, and you've got to get her to come over here, and you got to get her to buy us a round of drinks. And we were just, just young guys, cutting up, drinking, carrying on, and having a good time. And Alan was watching all this. He couldn't believe it because, Alan was a little bit more, he wasn't playing football with the guys, but he hung around with us. And he couldn't believe, that, I could tell a girl that I'd just been paroled and I haven't had a woman in a while, and I'm looking forward to having her and still get her number and score a makeout with her on the dance floor. He was stunned at the audacity and the brazenness of my approach, to the point where he even said to himself, no one would believe me if I told them, but if this was on camera, I bet it'll sell for a lot of money. And from that, the nucleus of the idea for Keys to the VIP was hatched. And I give Alan all the credit for that.
So let me get this straight here. Keys to the VIP, the entire concept of the show, came from you three guys hanging out, drinking, partying, having fun, and challenging one another, just like the two players on your show have to deal with a challenge. Like, you guys actually lived it.
We walked the walk and we talked the talk. Yes, and we lived it. And during the creation of the show, me and Alan started off. Alan called me up one day. He got my number off Sheldon, I think it was Alan thanked me for being a wingman on a specific pickup that he'd been trying to execute for a long time. But you do the reminisce of the weekend on the Monday afternoon. Oh, that was great how you did this and and high fives, and that was good. And we were acutely aware of the game, especially me at the time. I had already been slightly familiar with the online community, or more specifically, Ross Jeffries, in neurolinguistic programming. I stumbled upon him in my early university days, which was about 99, 2000. At the time, the whole Google it phenomenon, well, it still is a phenomenon. I think it's a noun now. This is what I have to say. You don't believe me? Google it. And at the time, I remember it was a teammate. He had asked me, it seems to be that you're very good with, the woman. And because I was a very sociable talker, a guy who liked to talk and enjoyed being sociable. And I guess just going out there, putting myself out there, netted me a lot of positive results. So I had the distinction of being a little bit of a Lothario. But I challenged one of my teammates to Google it, and that's what we did. We Googled something, and I came across Ross Jeffries. And I began learning about affecting the subconscious mind through language, or more popularly known to some people as neurolinguistic programming. And so I started dabbling in that from a young age. University, it's young age compared to a lot of the more older, sophisticated people who deal with hypnosis, almost in a way. Mm-hmm. But I started deploying hidden weasel phrases in a lot of the things that I would do, because at the time, rappers did it all the time. They were well known, so it was something that I was used to, listening to my music and understanding wordplay. So I incorporated it into my game, and still do, especially in aspects of storytelling, which is a huge tool, embedding phrases and higher value and things like that. But moving forward to the Guelph thing, Alan, he said, he called me up. He said, I really, really, really thinking about that whole idea of putting this on camera and creating a show. And me and Alan went back and forth discussing Keys to the VIP. We didn't have the title then, and I try to remember how we came up with the title for the show, how we came up with the title Keys to the VIP. But essentially, I know we had a discussion whether or not it should be more of a comedy or if it should be more serious. And I remember specifically this discussion because I think it was the first time that me and Alan ever argued about something. And I was putting forth the idea that it should be a comedy, which I later resented or later regretted. But I thought it should be a comedy because I didn't want to alienate the viewers. Mm-hmm. Because if we were out there just preaching and, telling guys, you suck, you have to do this, you have to do that, it's like, who the fuck are you guys? Excuse my language. But the idea of having it be a comedy, it ties back into seduction. Seduction is works in male-female interactions and also male-to-male interactions and business components. Comedy is an amazing tool in terms of gaining rapport, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners already know that. Mm-hmm. So we decided that if we use comedy, it will be more inclusionary for the viewer. There's that word again. I think I have to check the dictionary if it even exists, but it seems to be a title or a word that I use a lot in my life. But you would include the viewers if it's a comedy because you want them to be laughing with you and enjoying themselves. And when people are enjoying themselves, laughing, having a good time, then you could sneak in some of the teaching points and have a more receptive audience. So we finally decided that it should be a comedy. And then we began the process of basically working out the structure of the show. And essentially, basically bringing what we did in those bars up and putting it into a show structure. And then the rest was Keys to the VIP. Pitching it wasn't too hard. We found a senior production company, Buck Productions. They loved the idea, and they used their contacts at CTV, and to basically get us a meeting with some of the executives in the head office. Me and Alan, during this process, our friendship disintegrated for various business reasons. As you can see on Keith's VIP, Alan's listed as the owner's creative producer. I would like to believe that I myself had been informally contributing to the online society in terms of seduction websites and advising those around me when it came to Google it on how to become better at pair bonding. So the idea of Keys to the VIP I felt was near and dear to my heart in terms of passion and the spirit of the show, where I think Alan was more focused about the business aspects of the show. So that's what gave him his strength and his motivation was the business side, and for me it was more of the passion and the idea of men getting really good at picking up women, and those who are really good being celebrated, and those who weren't so good being exposed. Mm-hmm. Sheldon was my wingman throughout college, and he was a natural choice to join the panel. And then Chris came on a little bit later when we found our director, and he had very strong principles and theories. At first, I wasn't going to be on the panel. I just wanted to be an advisor because at the time I was in a relationship and I didn't know if I really wanted to be exposed. But certain executives did a casting, a place called Jigsaw Casting in Toronto, where they saw, I think 450 guys came on and sat with Alan and did screen tests, and they all were pretty much all brutal. And Alan gave me a call, I guess buried the hatchet momentarily, and said, "Listen, this thing is not going well. I need the executives to see how this thing works because we practice it and we need to get the ball rolling because they're losing confidence." So I said, sure. And, and then we made our provisions necessary to smooth my reintegration back into the show that I helped create. And I came down to the panel and they liked what they saw. So we got the go-ahead to start production. And then we got 3 solid seasons of Keys. The 4th season was, I'm still getting information on it right now, but as it stands, 4th season was abandoned because of complaints. The joke is that 1,500 crock-wearing, buzz-cut women who refused to shave their armpits had been picketing or petitioning CTV to have Keys to the VIP pulled off the air.
Wait, there was a protest?
There was brief protest at the CTV head office just off Brimley Road in Scarborough.
Okay, look. We gotta go to commercial break. When we come back, I want to hear more about these protests.
No problem.
All right. You're listening to Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles. We'll be back right after this.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. Ladies, do you want the man in your life to understand you on your level? Do you want your man to be able to listen to and address all of your emotional needs? Show him how much you really want your relationship to be the best it can be. Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test makes a perfect gift. The book, written by a man, for men, is endorsed by every woman that reads it. This book is a guide for men to understand exactly what a woman means when she speaks. Is that worth changing your life forever? Buy this book at franktalks.com now.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the program From Friends to Lovers. Stop being her emotional cookie man. How does a man turn his female friend into his lover even when she has rejected him in the past? Why would a woman rather date and have sex with a stranger than a male friend she had known for years? What emotional needs do male friends, emotional cookie men, address, and which ones do they violate such that they don't get to date their female friends? What does it take to make a woman date and fall in love with one of her male friends? Why don't women see their male friends as sexually capable beings? What is the difference between a real female friend and a woman that uses men? Find out here in this Frank program, From Friends to Lovers. Stop being her emotional cookie man. On sale now at FrankTalks.com.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the book I'm a Man, That's My Job, The Philosophy of a Seducer. Your inner game is as unique and personal as your signature or your fingerprints. This book provides you with the means to create your own seduction persona. By this, learn what it means to be a man and attract the women you want. Learn about how men and women think differently and how to take the lead in a relationship. This book is for you at FrankTalks.com.
You're listening to Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles. I'm Frank because I have to be, and today I am talking with Emeka. But you might not know him as Emeka, you might know him as Peachez from the TV show Keys to the VIP. He's here giving us a peek at the backstage going on, how Keys to the VIP came together, and he's telling us some really great stories. I'm really enjoying this interview. I'm so proud to have Emeka here on Frank Talks. Welcome back, Emeka.
Hey, well, we're getting into the meat and potatoes of the subject with the creation of Keys and some of the speed bumps Keys has run into. We last time before we went to commercial, we were talking about the fact that a group of women had protested the headquarters of CTV, the Canadian broadcaster, about not renewing the season 4 of Keys to the VIP. I want to hear everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly that you know of when it comes to Keys to the VIP, starting with this protest and what's happening with season 4. Yeah, you see, the CRTC, which is the Canadian version of the FCC, the American version of the FCC, the CRTC is a very strict body, and the way Canadians are developed is that if people enjoy stuff in Canada, they simply don't do anything. But if they're upset, they're active. And apparently that's all it took for a battalion of angry women to basically halt the train that is Keys to the VIP. CTV via CRTC basically had succumbed to the pressure and decided to reevaluate their position on Keys to the VIP because of the misogynistic overtones that a lot of detractors felt existed in the show. A lot of women, and I hear it often and every day, have accused me specifically, as well as the powers that be behind Keys to the VIP, of objectifying and degenerating the status of women within the city and as a whole. Basically the strong arm feminist groups have taken great issue and exception with Keys to the VIP and made their voices heard and caused there to be a reevaluation. I'm putting up the quote fingers in the air of our program, a program that I know has been enjoyed by many based on our position at the time on YouTube. But it's disappointing because my position and my idea of the show or the concept of the show was to never, ever belittle the woman And if you pay very close attention to Keys to the VIP, we never touch the woman. We never say anything about the woman. We stay clear where our main focus is the men and their abilities or the inability. And the hope, or my hope of the show specifically, was that guys can see real life examples of men out in the field applying their trade. And it could be a learning experience for those who are willing to open their minds and see the learning aspects of the show. It's cultural anthropology, psychology, sociology, right before your eyes. I think it's very useful material. I hear some professors quoting and using Keys to the VIP as reference points in some of their lectures in human behavior. Keys to the VIP is a powerful tool in assessing human behavior, because what are humans at their most natural? At night, drinking, convincing, being social, as opposed to being in the structured roles during the day when earning a living or at school. People let loose when the sun goes down, and you get to see people at their most natural. So I thought Keys to the VIP was amazing, and in terms of actually field study and watching humans in habitats and the behavior. But there's those out there who felt that it didn't portray women in a positive light, which is unfortunate. Now, hopefully, with time and understanding, and maybe if I'm able to get more of a platform at some point, I could convince the powers that be that it's not our goal to be misogynistic at all. But it's been an uphill battle, excuse me. From day one, it's been leaked to us that there was a faction of people in head office who were against the show. I don't know if this has anything to do with the fact that a lot of the people in the higher positions at CTV are female. I don't know. That's a question mark. Maybe I know the answer, but I'm not gonna come out and say it. But that's been a question that's been posed. I've never felt that we've had a warm reception at CTV. There was one guy who championed our cause to get us on air, and he's gone on to bigger and better things at MTV in New York. And I think it's by no surprise that as soon as he left, all of a sudden, 700 to 1,500 people who don't like our show, all of a sudden their power increased magically, as opposed to the hundreds of thousands of fans that we have around the country and around the world. I'm getting reports of the show being huge in Australia and being played almost every night. So it's unfortunate, but those who are disagreeing with something are often more active than those who are in agreement with something. So we're crossing our fingers. We're hoping that after CTV completes the reevaluation, maybe there'll be a fifth season. So we're going to stand by and wait. But in the meantime, I'm working on other things, and hopefully, just to continue to progress and not be negative about it as much as I say it was maybe a year or two ago.
All right. Let's change the direction of this interview a little bit.
Yeah.
Putting yourself in the spotlight, because you had talked about, initially not being on the panel at Keys to the VIP, about working behind the scenes, and in the end, you did end up on that panel.
Yes.
Obviously, putting yourself out there comes with a price. There are sacrifices you've had to make.
Absolutely. At the time, and even to this day, I've been in a relationship with a female for a long time. She wasn't happy with the idea of me being basically portrayed as this Lothario, and she didn't want to know or have the Peachez persona resurrected from my college days. Just hoping that was behind me. So it was a precarious balance, personally and in my relationships. As for publicly, you do give up a little bit of your privacy, just, making my way around the city in Toronto. It hasn't been as bad as I thought it would be. Most people, are well-wishers. They like the show. They express their gratitude, their happiness. They recount many of the epic battles that took place in their keys to the VIP battlefield. They enjoy, the aspects of many aspects of the show. On the other hand, just conversing with some females within the city, you get back into the whole idea of women being upset with the fact that, they felt the show was a little bit misogynistic. When you're a public figure, people feel that you are entitled to continue entertaining them when you're just living your life. There's many times I've been out in places and I've had men beg me to be the ringman, and I'm with my girlfriend or a friend at the time, engaging our own social situation. I've had men challenge me and say, "You don't know what you're talking about. You have no game. Why don't you show me what you got?" And of course, it's always funny because most times they interrupt me while I'm talking to a female. It's always amazing to have those guys who claim you have no game, and they're interrupting you while you're conversing with a female. So I always found that really hilarious. But I'm a pretty easygoing guy, and the burden of being a television persona hasn't been too burdensome. I don't think I'm that big. I'm not Brad Pitt big. I haven't needed security yet for anything. I haven't been put in any unsafe situations.
But you have given up some privacy.
Absolutely. I have surrendered privacy. There's an old saying, the greatest trick the devil ever played was making people believe he didn't exist. I no longer have that option. Everybody knows I'm the devil. So, anywhere I go, people are very aware that Peachez from Keys to the VIPs in here, and you do get reactions, and especially in the evening, nighttime, if I'm doing things that are social within the city. I'm usually all right during the day. I'm usually a fairly busy guy, but yeah, a certain amount of my privacy has been surrendered. Life is always easier when you have your own autonomy and you have your privacy. But yeah, you are right. I am being watched, so to speak. People do pay attention. I try to keep my finger out of my nose when I leave my house.
With all those things you've had to sacrifice and the price that you've had to pay, I'd also like to hear, what is it you love most now about your life, having been on Keys to the VIP? How has it affected you in a positive way? And I know we've talked a lot about positivity. Specifically, What I'm looking for is the day-to-day pleasures you experience having gone through this whole ordeal.
Well, that's a good one, because I think for me, as ridiculous as it may sound, especially for those who are my main detractors, I have taken a role model position for a lot of youth who are come from a minority background. You don't have to be a rapper. You don't have to wear baggy clothing. You don't have to look like a gangster. You don't have to talk ebonics to fit in. You can be well educated. You can speak well, hopefully, if I articulate myself well. You could be confident in not having to fall into a cliche or a stereotype that you think is fashionable because BET says so. I like the idea that a lot of people come to me and ask for advice or ask for tips, and most times I'm very willing, so willing to the point where I created a blog where I could field questions from guys whenever I can get the chance to actually sit down and do it. I usually find myself logging in on the weekends and you know, after a Sunday afternoon while watching football when the season's going, and answering some of the questions that I receive at casualbond.com. And I take great pride in that and offering advice and being an empathetic ear to some of the people out there who, you know, who simply need that or simply need advice. I find it a great honor that people would be willing to come to me and seek guidance. And I think there's a part of me that naturally wanted to be a teacher, and that's why I recently decided that I want to go ahead and pursue a PhD in cultural anthropology. I think having a doctor at the front of my name would be cool at some point, and maybe hopefully lecturing about the social frequency and cultural anthropology and people's ability to effectively pair bond and this aspect of human interaction. It's a massive. I think, you know, we learn how to drive. We go to computer class to learn how to keyboard, all this stuff. You know, most of our lives are spent, you know, living with someone else. And there's a saying: you either like what you get, or you get what you like. And something as important as marriage and pair bonding, why shouldn't there be some basic training that comes before it? It's probably the most important thing in our life. I've seen many situations where men have been in marriages that have broken them because they didn't necessarily have the skills to get what they like. Mm-hmm. They had to settle for what it was they can get their hands on, mm-hmm. which in turn later destroyed them. Mm-hmm. And so empowering men with the knowledge and the abilities and the skill set to go out there and effectively choose someone who's going to complement them because they are confident in who they are and confident in their abilities and therefore confident in what they're doing when they're out in the field and attracting someone of significance and importance. I think it's going to enhance lives. You know, I would like to believe that one day social frequency will lower the divorce rate because men will be constantly getting into relationships that are not going to implode because they made the right choices in the first place.
Amen. Amen. Now, look, we have talked about the pleasures of your lifestyle. We've gone into your future aspirations, but I got to ask you some hard questions now.
Absolutely, brother. Fire away.
Because I know that somebody out there is listening, and they're going to be thinking, I'm sure you've gotten these questions before, and it's going back to the TV show Keys to the VIP. So here they are in no particular order. Okay. Isn't Keys to the VIP fixed? I mean, do the girls know that they're being recorded? Does the guy, because, they all go to the same nightclub, do the guys get to invite all of their friends in there? How much of it is staged? Like you said, it's a comedy TV show. There's an audience involved. These people, when they walk in, they have to sign something because they're going to be on TV. How do you, with all of those aspects, how does Keys to the VIP manage to put out a TV show, not get sued? I have to imagine, and I'm sure other people who are listening right now are thinking the same thing. There's got to be a catch. This thing can't be real.
Great question. And I'll deal with it in a percentage-wise. From what I've been able to ascertain, based on how much of it is real and how much it is fixed, I would say 90% of it's real. Now, let me explain the 10%. I've had 2 confirmed cases that there were cheaters on Keys to the VIP, and they quickly fixed it because there was a leak. What they tried to do is they tried to surprise the players on where they were going to be playing the game that night. So they'll feed them misinformation. But unfortunately, I don't know if there was a Watergate situation that happened. 2 of the players found out where they were going to be playing, and then they basically set it up so that they could pick up their friends. I believe one guy went by, actually it might be slanderous if I say his name, but
don't say his name. Like we can know it. I'm sure the internet will follow up with this, but you can confirm that 2 guys
two
cheated.
guys were confirmed or suspected cheaters. I would love to out them. But hopefully maybe somebody will blog about it, and I think the inner circles have already outed them. But I would like to say that there's, on the other hand, a lot of the guys generated their success on their own. More specifically, most proudly, Cajun, who's become a sensation from his time on Keys to the VIP. That was legitimate. He did that at a club out in Port Dalhousie. I think it was called My Cottage. And he went on last minute because his cousin, Mitch, who was going to compete against some other guy, the other guy basically got cold feet. And Cajun had come out to give Mitch moral support simply, and was spurred into action the last minute. And Cajun came on, and he basically had the most perfect performance in the history of Keys to the VIP, and became a rock star overnight. He was 3-0. He destroyed every pickup. He was a savant that night. And my hat's off to Cajun. I was a huge fan of his before, when Mystery Method became Love Systems. And I was a huge champion, for the idea of actual real life pickup artists coming on the show and producing their wares. If you watch the Cajun episode very, closely, I'm ridiculed by the other judges for basically the fact that I was so gung-ho about a professional pickup artist being on the show. So much to the point where Justin, the director, had to cut some of the footage and edit it because we didn't want there was basically being nasty stuff being said about Cajun and Mitch, because Cajun and Mitch are not supermodels by any stretch of the imagination. They're just normal looking guys. And, the panel was decidedly against them because they thought they were, keyboard jockey nerds who, basically were robots, and now also some negative things to say. And, Alan adopted the saying "looks and game are mutually exclusive" after watching Cajun, and it's like after everybody saw Cajun, everybody saw the light, but it was me and Justin who saw the light first, and we knew about this massive underground subculture that existed, and that these guys can come in and do a good job. So. Guys like Cajun represented everything that was good about Keys to the VIP, where these 2 other cats represented what was bad about Keys to the VIP. And it's funny enough, these 2 other guys who cheated were good-looking guys. I was shocked.
Really?
It wasn't like they were your typical guys who he wasn't typical of the behavior that you would think from the stereotypical nerd who came on the show and had to cheat because this is his big chance to prove the world wrong. There was 2 good-looking guys who should have had the confidence, who should have had the game, who should have had the ability, that were forced to cheat in order to win. So I found it very comical that he's got, I was shocked. So I like to tell the viewers out there, looks and game are mutually exclusive. The two guys that cheated were good-looking guys, and they cheated. So it was.
But is that
really eye-opening?
But okay, I got to go back to the original question here, though. Is that the only stuff that was faked? I mean, the girls, do they know that they're being? Do they know they're on the show? Do they know
okay,
that
you're talking about the contract stuff. Good question. What happens is what we would do, and it was a nightmare at some points. But what we would do is we would get the footage we needed, and then approach the girls after. And say, listen, you've just been caught on camera. It's a TV show. Keys to the VIP. Do you mind if we use the interaction you just had that guy on the show? And you'll be shocked about the number of signatures we got on the affirmative. Everybody wants their 15 minutes of fame. I guess these girls spent 3-4 hours getting ready, so they might as well be on TV. So all the girls did not know. Hidden cameras, hidden mics. Very well hidden. It was a covert operation. A Pentagon specialist would have been impressed with the way the operation went down. But the contracts were signed after we got the footage, so which allowed us to get natural reactions. If we had went to the girls first, then it would have been tainted. The field would have been tainted badly. So it actually worked out the way we did it.
One of the things I saw on the internet when I saw reviews of Keys to the VIP is that I saw posts that said some of the girls had their faces blurred.
Yeah.
And other girls didn't. And I'm just curious, do you know why that happened?
Absolutely. What happens is, I remember the one specific episode. We did a filming at the docks, and a couple of girls didn't like the idea of being on TV, so we experimented with blurring their faces. I think they moved away from that altogether, but they gave it a shot. And because the footage was so good, and because they didn't get the consent forms signed, the network had basically stated that they will be fine if the faces were blurred. But I think later on they completely abandoned even using the footage. But in those situations, the footage was so good that they decided to simply blur the footage, blur the faces. Excuse me.
So if the faces were blurred, it's because they didn't sign the consent form. Was that
exactly?
It? Okay.
Exactly.
But everybody else, they didn't know. They were told afterwards, "Look, we just filmed you." And did anybody ever say no, other than the people whose faces were blurred?
No, not that I know of. No, the people that said no were blurred, and everybody's face that you see on Keys to the VIP, they did not go on TV unless the form was signed.
Now, here's the question I have: what if the guy is going out there as part of the competition? He wins. He gets, he wins the competition, but the girls that he was interacting with would have said no. Would you have sent him back out to play that same game until some girl said yes?
Oh, well, what happens is I think for the actual structure of the show, there's only a certain amount of time. There was a time limit that we had in terms of shooting because the club would want to get into full clubbing, quote unquote.
Right. Because
we had to have the music levels in the club turned down slightly in order to help with the acoustics. And it's funny, that never generated any suspicion, so we went with it anyways.
Okay.
But there was a time limit on filming. So the winner didn't have all night to perfect his craft. He had just as many chances as his opponent to basically get a result that led to him winning. So what happens is you would have, I think what ended up happening is out of 3 games, that's 3 different challenges, they may have went with 5. I think 5 was the golden number. So you had 5 tries to go out there and you had 5 different games to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would just basically take the average, the best out of 5.
Okay, I got it.
and then we would crown our winner. And I'm glad it wasn't too controversial. I think the only time it got really controversial was with Mark Sparks. There was I'm not privy to what happened with Mark Sparks, but there was from behind the scenes, there was a lot of controversy with what was going on with Mark Sparks, and I can assure you that Mark Sparks is very talented, and Mark Sparks gets my seal of approval because I have seen that guy, what he can do in real life. He's a dynamo, but most times, actually all time, it was pretty much clear and who the winner was.
Okay. Dude, we gotta wrap this up. It's been absolutely great having you on Frank Talks, Pleasures, and Lifestyles. We sincerely hope that you're gonna come back and do another show with us.
Thank you so much. I would love to. It's great talking to you and getting to let the fans hear what's going on with me, and it's good to let people know, that TV isn't all glitz and glamour. It's full of its frustrations and its pitfalls, and that it's good to come on and talk to someone who's interested in this type of stuff.
Let's hear that blog address one more time before we sign off, so people know where to find you.
Absolutely. You can reach me at www.casualbond.com. Conventional spelling, all one word, casualbond.com. And yeah, if you have any questions, if you just want to, ask me some questions about keys, if you want to know who the two cheaters were, just say, you can send me a question and I'll probably give you the answer.
All right. It's been great having you on, and we will talk to you in the future.
Thanks, Frank.
You're listening to Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles. Good night, everybody.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. What would your life be like if you knew exactly what to say and do with women? Learn how to handle women's tests by addressing her emotional needs. By this, you create the type of attraction that will make her see you as the one. This book is a guide for men to understand exactly what a woman means when she speaks. Is that worth changing your life forever? Buy this book at FrankTalks.com now.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by Multiple Women Management, the 10 secret rules of a harem master. What are the written rules of multiple women management? How are the emotional needs of women addressed in a lifestyle that supports dating multiple women at the same time? Can love actually exist when dating many women at once? How does a man handle it when his lovers meet each other? What are the real risks of dating multiple women at the same time? Why does a man that wants multiple long-term partners need to be wary of the law? What is the Desperate Measures Act that even the most notorious player could use to get a woman to believe that he is ready for a serious long-term relationship? This program has those answers and more, including a brief overview of the difference between monogamy, polyamory, swinging, multiple women management, the 10 secret rules of a harem master. On sale now at FrankTalks.com.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by Pimping Your Pad Seminars. Decorating your bachelor apartment, your home, and the way you live is an extension of your sexuality. Frank will show you, with pictures of his own home, what women look for that identifies you as a potential partner. Frank looks at everything from theme rooms to furniture placement and space management to pets to the organization of your bathroom to get women to want to spend the night. The Pimping Your Pad Seminars and telephone consultations, only available at FrankTalks.com.